But Conversing Games, you said there would not be another installment of Suffering Through for a while. Well, I lied. Kind of. I entered Watch Dogs with an open mind, a mind full of happy memories for a game that I mistakenly, up to about a week ago, really enjoyed. And now, older and wiser, I look back at the footage I recorded and I cannot understand why I liked it. But I'll try. Oh god, I will try. Join me as I suffer through Watch Dogs, a misguided man's attempt at self-redemption where everyone else has already forgiven him. As a series that is already 3 games deep, with each game having multiple DLCs, this is a rather massive undertaking. Because yes, I am looking at every single game, not just Watch Dogs 1, but the whole trilogy and the DLC. And we kinda have to start at the start. Watch Dogs is a very interesting game for nearly every reason that there could be for it being interesting. There's Aidan Pierce, there's hacking without minigames, mostly. Chicago as a setting, dystopian utopias, it being a GTA competitor, it's multiplayer, it's narrative, it's horrible mismanagement of player engagement. But none of that even pales in comparison to its confusing narrative that is often at odds with itself and with its gameplay. But that will come later. For now, Watch Dogs joins the ranks of Ubisoft's massive and ever-growing collection of open-world games which all pick and choose from an also massive and ever-growing toolbox. But each game would only choose 1 or 2 tools from this toolbox. Far Cry 3 had a windsuit. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood would have the Brotherhood system. So we have our Assassin's Creeds, our Far Cries. Both are different but increasingly becoming the same as each game released. You always had stealth elements and you always had a rather uninspired combat system. And you always had to go to rather separated regions and climb a tower of some sort. And I don't really know why this is the case, but there's always a jumping puzzle to get to the top. And it does make sense in Assassin's Creed because, you know, it's a game about assassins who climb shit. But Far Cry, and in particular Far Cry 3 and 4, are about scared early 20-somethings who get appointed as the saviour of some small, isolated community in a war-torn country. So, see, they're oddly similar every time. It is the Ubisoft formula as much as I hate that phrase. It's a very fair enough way to see it. But I think I see it more as a collection of features with each game having a similar base feature set. An open world, radio towers and side quests, but then they pick out a special feature that sets the game apart. And also it looks nice at an E3 press demo. And now we have Watch Dogs. But we would have to go back to the lowly year of 2014, a year full of games like Far Cry 4, Assassin's Creed Unity, Titanfall and Evil Within 1. A couple of those games are good and a couple of them are average at best. But in 2014, Watch Dogs 1 was also released. It took the familiar elements that both Assassin's Creed and Far Cry had normalised within their own respective series and applied them to a third-person shooter. A shooter that got backlash for being statistically average. But that might have also been because we were told it was going to be one of the best games ever made and reviews weren't allowed until the minute the game went available for purchase. And this was before No Man's Sky, so people weren't really all that clued into pre-orders yet.
Can you run into other people, other players on the game?
Yes, but the chances of that are incredibly rare, just because of the size of what we're building.
Yeah, well, this is where it started to get a little bit hodgepodge. This is me writing the intro before I even replay the game. And I want to point out, this is my 6th attempt at playing this game again. I've only ever made it past the first mission once, and that was my first playthrough, the only time I ever actually finished the game. And I was 13 when Watch Dogs came out. I bought it not long after release, and I really liked it. I remember going to school and talking to my mates about it. I remember giving glowing endorsements, encouraging them to buy it. But now if I ask someone if Watch Dogs 1 was worth the money, I don't know what I would say in response. Sure, I have positive memories, but I also failed to beat the game 6 times in the last 2 years. Yes, the last 2 years. So why is that? Well, As of now, before playing the game, I have no clue. So, I forced myself to replay the game from start to finish. I didn't get to stop, I had to come back to it. I had to put in at least an hour a day until it was done. Because, well, I just had to know why this game was so insufferable to me. And now I know. Let's start at the start. Watch Dogs begins with two hackers hacking a hotel, the Hotel Malot. Our main character with our stupid hat bumps into this poor woman like a dickhead. The screen goes all completely glitchy, and because, well, we're hackers and that's what happens when you hack stuff, I guess. We get this like wireframe look at a stylized view of the hotel's Wi-Fi network. We get to see fun facts about people, and even their yearly income. A bit odd, but alright. Our man in the chair says some poetic shit about secrets and lies, because it turns out we're actually here for money, not data, so his little poetic thing doesn't make any sense, but because we're stealing money from the rich and famous, like Robin Hood, I guess, but this time Robin Hood was literally just a thief, not someone who fed the homeless.
We are the modern day magicians, siphoning bank accounts out of thin air.
Can you hear yourself?
Yeah, alright, I get what you're trying to say, but can you please dial down the pompous prick attitude a little bit? Our partner alerts us to another hacker on the network, probably doing the same thing we're doing. Our partner wants to take a look, but a weird figure flashes on the screen instead. It looks like we're the ones getting hacked now. Aidan reminds him of the task at hand, but the big teacher stereotype says no, we gotta have a look. The security system begins a search to hunt down the two hackers. Although, and this is me nitpicking, I don't really know what that would bring up. Like, would it tell them the brand of phone? Like, the guards would know to find a guy with a BlackBerry or whatever? Like, I don't understand why Aidan begins to panic over this. We get another glimpse of the figure before Aidan disconnects and begins to break into a sprint, only making it obvious that he was the hacker, which might explain this next part. We cut to a view of a computer screen. A job has been placed both onto Aidan and his mentor Damien. And oh gee, I wonder how they figured that one out. They look at the cameras and use facial recognition to figure out who the man who dresses like a sci-fi dystopia's villain was? Probably. The email is from a bad boy 17. This will come up in a little bit, and it's a setup for a twist that isn't really a twist if you know how to read. The mysterious man speaking hires Maurice, a hitman to take out Aidan, and it's a little unclear if it's meant to be murder, or to just scare him into not releasing data or whatever. But regardless, they fuck up and they kill Aidan's niece, sending him spiraling into a depression which manifests itself in a desire to revenge kill whoever gave Maurice the job. Welcome to Watch Dogs, everyone. It's time to pick this mess apart. A wireframe view of a stadium gives us a hint of our next location, but we aren't watching from the stands. No, we're gonna go down under and beat a man in our iconic attire. Aidan beats Maurice, the man who just killed his niece, and he's basically just trying to figure out who hired him for the job, but Maurice doesn't know anything.
I don't know. You don't know.
Hate the family? Not a problem. Nope. Husky, I'm good.
Aidan takes it personally when the audio recording says it was just to scare him, because, well, that obviously did not work the intended way for sure.
Who was on the other end of the call? Give me a name.
They never gave me a name!
I'll tell your name. Lena. Lena Pierce.
As Aidan is a bit more angry and bitter than he probably should be, and he's not really scared and disinterested in the whole revenge angle. And that's a good way to sum up his character, really. He's angry. But revenge isn't always the target, as you'll see later. For now, however, Aidan just wants to keep threatening this guy until he gives something up. A guy, by the way, who was trying to save Aidan from going too deep down a rabbit hole of society's elites and their secrets.
Even if I knew a name, you couldn't get me talking. These guys, I heard stories, man, that like nothing you ever seen before. You gotta walk away from this, man. Some things you can't walk away from.
But Aidan, blinded by rage, just keeps doing Aidan Pierce shit.
Who gave the order? I spoke to them on the phone. They told me where to find you. That's all I know, man. That's all I know. Give me a name. I don't know.
We get a tutorial on how to kill a man,
Kill me, man. Just fucking kill me.
but that gun is empty. Thank fuck. We wouldn't want to do something we would regret now, would we? Maurice decides that rushing the man who just has you captive and, you know, hitting him with a bat is a good idea. But we also get a tutorial on how to take someone down, an animated kill move of sorts. Aidan monologues about how Maurice used the voice memos app on his phone. But because I also use the vending machine, the voice memo gets cut off and I can't tell you what was said in it. Sorry. We wander into another cutscene used to set up Geordie, our friend who is also a hitman, but he's good or something. He's a little free-minded. He sets up the bodies that look like the viceroys this gang just had some infighting. Aidan gets Geordie to take Maurice to a safe house as he isn't done with him yet. But Geordie's distraction is actually calling the cops and telling them the gang had a shooting in the basement, because sure. And Jordan is he's the zany, funny character who is so wacky and over the top. And we leave the cutscene by Aidan giving us a glimpse into our current, past, and present, and probably future as well if the virus doesn't fucking stop. The next section is this game's first tutorial. It teaches us stealth, takedowns, how to craft items like a noisemaker. A staple of Ubisoft's stealth mechanics since Splinter Cell, rest in peace. The crafting is all handled the same and is designed to be used on the fly to quickly adapt to a situation. We also learned this is a cover-based shooter with stealth it's as an option, and I will stress that it is not always enforced, but it is the better option somewhat most of the time. And as you can tell from button prompts, I played this with a mouse and keyboard, which I strongly do not recommend. There is a horrible case of mouse acceleration that is impossible to fix. People have tried, but no one can get rid of it 100%. So I ended up switching to a wireless Xbox controller where my problems just became the typical PC gamer using a controller. Clumsy aiming, movement feels a little weird, but the driving is heaps easier. But that aside, this section is effective in what it is trying to do. It sets up our lovely protagonist as someone who is not averse to getting his hands dirty. But it is worth noting that none of his takedowns are killing people. We're not shooting people here, we're just bonking them on the head and leaving, which will play into the reputation system that I'll get into later. The stadium part ends with a cheeky call from Bad Boy 17, the same person that emailed whoever created the hit on Aidan. Why is she helping us? That'll come up later, but not anytime soon. I'm almost certain that they forgot about the twist and had to go back and add the handle to the email so it all made sense. Like, it doesn't come up until the end in a very typical, oh no, we were friends but you backstabbed me kind of way. But like, that was before I knew the real you, sort of thing. Like, it's just, it's cliche, honestly. Bad Boy 17 gets us to hack into the local CTOS network. Of what CTOS is, we have no idea at this point. But will that be explained later? I don't know. I'm playing the game. I'll bring it up eventually, I'm sure. Bad Boy 17 triggers a district-wide blackout, letting Aidan slip away peacefully into a car that Geordie planted for him. We get a police chase. Well, it's not really a chase, it's more of a avoid the cops kind of assortment. The driving feels fucking terrible. It's floaty, but also, like, the cars are too heavy in a weird way. And Aidan drives back to his hideout, which is a motel, by the way. His internal monologue reckons that Aidan will get a call from Maurice in the future because Maurice's guilt is just eating away at the poor man. He'll call Aidan in a couple of days and it'll come spilling out, because of course it will. Very interesting psychoanalyst there as well, Aidan. Could it be a little projection, perhaps? Aidan plugs his phone into a hub of some sort to listen back to Maurice's warning. Fair enough. The idea of Aidan wandering into something too dangerous for him seems more like a challenge in my reading of him. Oh, and we also learn that Aidan takes digital privacy very seriously, as he has security cameras inside his sister's home where he spies on her and his nephew Jackson. And in a game that is ultimately about digital privacy and how everyone should have it, this is a very weird move. But I do understand how it's meant to show that Aidan is overprotective to the point of being volatile and off-putting to nearly everyone. But to him, it's a way of caring for his sister, even if he doesn't know the right words or gestures to show that. Still creepy though. Aidan angry? Punch wall. Now we get a tutorial on open world events and what I'm going to call social hacking. Two of three pillars of the game. They build up the bulk of the gameplay and basically anything that isn't a quest, effectively. I'm talking about them here as they aren't overly interesting but should be covered anyway. I don't want to just randomly bring them up later, as I might make my discussion of the narrative and overall progression a little weird to follow. So here we are. Once we talk to Bad Boy 17, we're told they're going to give us a little backdoor into CTOS, as our little thing at the stadium allowed DedSec enough time to get into the CTOS servers. So we've been given a link into the backdoor, which, what this means for us now is that we can scan people and view details about them using our phone. But first, Aidan has a nightmare.
Anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to go to Pawnee.
Okay, you're the boss. We'll go to Pawnee. Sick of remembering her that way. It's never a dream of her tiny face pressing the window when she knows I was coming over. Or that little wobbly dance she did. It's always the same nightmare.
He says that he wishes that he could remember her normally, that it's never just a dream of her tiny face, it's always the same nightmare. And again, well, he just wants to murder anyone who had any hand in it, so, revenge, I guess, right? Love it. We go outside and Aidan loudly exclaims that
I need to get my mind off things. Lucky for me, this city's full of distractions. And they can't hide from me.
this serves as a tutorial for what I'm going to call social hacking. It is basically walking around and looking at people's digital presence. But the first thing I do with it is steal money from a guy that makes 40 grand a year and is a firefighter. Kind of a shit cunt, aren't you, Aidan? Literally stealing money from firefighters. Does it get much worse than that? Effectively, this system is a way of getting money and a crafting component for one-time hacks which show up much later in the game. It's also a handy bit of world building, as we can listen in on calls and texts, and most of them are random shit, but some of us do give insight into what the common folk think of life and CTOS. It's nifty, but it is ultimately just flavor text, and that's it. But the idea of Aidan hacking people's social security number is actually somewhat in character. He does even say that he wants to thank CTOS one day. So he's not really the same level of hacktivist as DedSec. He hacks so he can get revenge and make money. I mean, there's even a kind of mission called a privacy invasion that is all about looking through people's webcams or home cameras. So yeah, Aidan is part of the problem, just another abuser of a system, frankly. At least DedSec want to keep people's stuff for security reasons. I imagine. Anyway, the game doesn't really get into it, and it never gets brought up, ever. But I guess it does work out somewhat in the end for Bloom and CTOS, as the game has 2 sequels. But anyway, the point of this entire mission is for us to do a side quest. It is a typical Ubisoft thing where you do a side quest as a compulsory mission. I think literally every single Ubisoft game has done it. This one is scanning people to find out if they might commit a crime. A handy feature that I'm sure no one's going to abuse. We find a girl texting this guy who's angry over something, and we get a waypoint. We go to waypoint, find the potential victim, but we can't act until the game tells us to, despite the fact that he's basically about to kill her.
Deal with
You're
it.
so fucking wrong. I'm not done yet.
I gotta stop him now.
I'll scream.
I'll teach. Don't get in my shit.
We chase the guy, take him down, and the mission ends. And, well, this is never brought up in the narrative again. Aidan doesn't do any crime fighting. He just does a lot of fighting, but not crime fighting. Despite the media calling him a crime fighter, they call him the vigilante, but he doesn't do vigilante stuff. He just does a lot of private property damage. And then the chapter ends. But not before we get our stolen money out of an ATM, and probably out of some poor fuck's bank account, no doubt. It also brings up the question, why not just hack the money out of the ATM? And also, why aren't we hunting down our niece's killer?
I haven't been to Nikki's since the funeral. Am I ready? Jack's last birthday, Lena sang off key. Happy birthday. Full throttle, no holds barred. Now, I'm afraid of the silence.
We rock up at our sister's house for our nephew's birthday. We're very late. The party's ended by the time we actually get there. Aidan Pierce is a great hacker, but he's kind of a shit uncle.
Here goes.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. Stay here for a second. So, an entire year and
You're late. Yeah, I'm sorry, Nick. Really.
it's his first birthday without Lena.
It turns out Jackson, our nephew, is actually functionally mute these days because of the whole, the trauma of losing his sister. He only really speaks to his mum now and sometimes to his therapist. They share a hug and it's obvious that Aidan is a father figure to this kid. Could Jackson have picked a worse father figure to look up to? Probably not. Nikki, the sister, and Aidan bond over memories of their father, but Nikki receives a call.
Know where you live? How are the locks on those doors?
Who is this? Why are you calling?
A prank call, or as the game calls it, a crank call. And I've never heard that one before, so I googled it, and according to Urban Dictionary, it differs from a prank call by not being funny, but instead serious and threatening. So, yeah, it's a crank call.
Leave it, it's fine.
It's fine. He thinks he can get inside.
How do you know what he thinks?
You're checking the locks.
Look, I can handle this on my own. We do not need your help.
Nikki, I can find this guy.
Okay, look, Aidan, God, you have not changed at all. We do not need your help. Please stop trying to fix our problems. Every time you try, you just make things worse.
I better go.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Grown man making crank calls. Let's see how safe you feel when I trace your call.
Someone is threatening his family again, so Aidan, using hacking, he traces the call despite the fact that Nikki just told him to not go after the guy and to leave it, as they actually don't need him to solve all their problems.
He's on the move.
Fair enough, honestly. But Aidan, being Aidan, decides to fuck it and go after him. He's ingeniously right across the street, and it turns into a car chase that takes me forever to catch up and even longer for me to take him down. Why? Well, the driving isn't very good. Something's wrong. It feels really bad. And I'm not a controller. I have far more accurate control of speed and turning than I would on a mouse and keyboard, but it still sucks. It's floaty but heavy somehow. I don't really know. but it's terrible, and a lot of the missions in the game revolve around driving in some way, so if you do end up playing this game, you just have to get used to it, because it does not get better. Nikki calls us halfway through and tells us to come back, but she quickly deduces that we're in the midst of attacking a guy for a prank. Sorry, crank call.
I won't freak out on you. Aidan? You're going after that creep, aren't you?
Well,
You're doing it right now. I can't believe you.
it's not like that.
Stop being a hero, Aidan. Let it go.
Let what? Yeah, the call's breaking up. I can't hear you.
No, you can hear me perfectly. You need to stop right now.
Yeah, hello? You still there? Can't hear you. Okay, gotta go.
Ugh!
We take him down and hack his phone to reveal, well, nothing. We actually need CTOS access in the area to trace it. So we asked resident Bad Boy 17, but he doesn't have access to the CTO network in that area yet. So that's our next mission. It's time for a Far Cry-esque outpost. The game forces us to buy an assault rifle for this. It's an interesting choice considering that I don't use it at all for this mission, but fair play. World building is always nice, as is setting the stakes. Arriving at the CTOS center, it becomes obvious that yes, this is literally just another tool from the Ubisoft toolbox. It's an outpost. Nearly every Ubisoft game has them, and we're just here to do a radio tower, basically. It's important to note this is not an actual outpost, as it's part of a quest, but this kind of thing shows up on the open world map and is needed to get access to social hacking in parts of the map. We have to hack around to find an access code that one of the guards has. We get it, knock out a guy, and now we're hacking to CTOS. And now we have CTOS access for the Loop District. It took me less than 2 minutes to finish this entire mission, but it's a sign of things to come. Aidan calls Bad Boy and we're told the call's being traced, but it'll take a while. It's time for another distraction from the main storyline in the form of Geordie wanting us to do a mission for him. Delightful. It's a driving mission, by the way, so it's a bit different than the standard Ubisoft affair, but a really annoying thing happens as we go to do the mission. We get another mission. Why? Well, Dark Souls, Watch Dogs had multiplayer. Dark Souls styled invasions and co-op. And this random mission that just interrupted my other mission is a tutorial for the invasion mechanic. But I actually have them turned off in the settings. So I'm just going to skip over it as it's literally not important. Plus, the servers might actually be offline for it as well. I haven't checked. But yeah, sorry to everyone who worked on the multiplayer, but we start Geordie's mission and get called by the client. We have to pick him up and get him away from the cops. And it's pretty obvious this is not Aidan's first time doing this kind of stuff. If you've played GTA, literally any of the modern 3D ones, then you know what to do. Avoid cop cars and helicopters, get out of the zone. It's a fairly easy system, but it does have one caveat. Cops can trigger CTOS scans of areas. These are basically little circles that if you're in that area, you build up a detection bar and you have to not get detected. So it forces you to move around more. It helps out with making these encounters more exciting. But as it turns out, our client is a little bit of an idiot. Our client stole something for Lucky Quinn, the leader of the club, another crime group in the city.
Very good.
Tell your employer I'll call again. If ever I need another delivery.
Lucky kills the man and tells Aidan that he'll be hiring us again soon. Nice. You might have saw this coming, but because of that last series of missions, I've actually unlocked something. I've unlocked the ability to do all those outposts, all the radio towers and all that crap. So yeah, I'm doing that. This chapter is just about unlocking heaps and heaps of regions and gaining access to stuff. fuck's sakes. Across the map, there are 4 main CTOS outposts to be taken down. Each one requires a keycode hacked from a guard, alive or dead, and then a hacky minigame, and you get to see servers and some juicy video clips. Overall, these are fine. They're built pretty logically and are easy enough to stealth through, but I did, to be honest, just want to get them done, so I just went in guns blazing. A couple guards will call in reinforcements if you let them, but you can just shoot them with a silenced gun, they don't do it. But because of that, it's easy enough to prioritize targets and take them down before they do. But seeing as the only gun the game gives you is literally a silenced pistol, stealth is extremely easy. Headshots are a one-shot kill and you can do them at a very long distance. You can also do takedowns, but they're long and the animations often leave you open for attack. But you can do them from cover and the enemy's body will be hidden behind said cover. So it is also a decent alternative to just shooting cunts in the head with a silenced pistol. Overall, I do like the general flow of combat. My biggest complaint, however, is just the gunplay. It's basic, almost arcadey. Recoil is far too easy to control, right? But that does have the added bonus of feeling snappy, which I suspect was the main idea. You're meant to feel like a professional hitman who is going from target A to B quickly and efficiently. The fact that I'm playing with a controller with some pretty aggressive aim assist does help there. And I won't lie, it does feel pretty good. Everything in this game feels fluid actually. Moving from one cover to another, climbing up and over fence, all that stuff is really smooth. Animations might be a little bit janky at times, but they are kind of being put together on the fly in like some sort of like procedural animation, right? So, can't really complain there. Technical limitations are just that, limitations. Sometimes you have to avoid them when reviewing the game objectively, but it is still worth bringing up anyway. After all the combat is done, or you've sneaked through, you do a basic electricity flow puzzle and you're into the servers where you can watch a selection of clips from private webcams, cameras, and even a bin. Aidan does a mode on these, surprised that this is happening that no one knows about it. Which does mean that Aidan is somewhat against it, even if he does benefit from the system. Although I imagine he was a hacker before CTOS, so I suppose it's just a new set of rules for him, I guess. Well, for most of the clips, they are fairly innocent, which does bring to mind the whole "you've got nothing to hide, so why hide it" defense that a lot of pro-digital surveillance people throw around. But the simple truth is, even if you don't have something to hide, you still wouldn't want a camera recording you in your home. Even a grocery list can be personal. It can have heaps of information about you on it, your diet, your budget. And people like to feel safe in their own home and on their own devices, which is fair enough. And as it seems, Bloom is holding any amount of data from anyone, from sex tapes, suicide attempts, and even just a guy watching a sport. It's all there, and it's all there together. It's just all gathered indiscriminately in one place. A fair chance of it being innocent, and a lot of it housing people's crimes or people's personal lives. A small amount of potential crime stopped does not mean that personal privacy should be removed because it helped one person. Personal freedom is a right, not a strange concept that is bendable at a company's will. The other CTOS side objectives are just Far Cry radio towers. You do some parkour, you unlock some doors by moving between cameras, and then you get markers for side content, shops, and collectibles sometimes. It's boring to do, but there is only a handful of them across the game's map. Other than that, you do also have a small list of sided quests that pop up from time to time as dynamic events. You go to a marker, then a mission starts. Pretty much all of these require killing someone, so they're pretty much all the same, just the circumstances change. The two of interest are convoys and gang hideouts. Convoys give you the route of a convoy of vehicles, you can then intercept them or plan a trap. The marker directs you to the target. If you stop his car via damaging enough, he'll get out and you have to take him down. It's a simple mission, but it does break up the otherwise fairly boring open world. Gang hideouts are much more open to user expression, however. You get given an area normally patrolled by guards, and you have to find one person who either needs to be killed or taken down. This depends on the mission given. They're normally located in like these little well-designed little encounters that are really open to both combat and stealth, or a merger of the two. There are more types of side content, but to be perfectly honest with you, I ignored pretty much all of them. There's some where you race, some where you pick up collectibles, but I protest that shit in games, so I skipped it. Another interesting thing that Watch Dogs does is a reputation system. It goes up from doing good stuff, down from killing citizens. The only thing this really affects is if a random NPC will call the cops on you if you're doing something weird, and then also what the news says about you after that. Good rep means they won't call the cops and the news likes you. Bad rep means they will just call literally all the cops in cities on you, and the news will fucking hate you, never want to talk about you again. It's pretty basic. There's not really much there. It just seems to be thrown out as a way to artificially raise the difficulty of cop encounters, plus just to provide like meta-narrative stuff. But I don't really like it here. I wish it did more, and I wish it was easier to get and to lose. The bulk of side missions give it to you. I wish there were some that made you lose a rep, but you got heaps of money or something. But as it stands now, the only reason to do side content other than just because you like doing it is for XP and money. And I do like how you access this and many other features in the game through a pop-up mock-up of a phone UI. It's charming and cements the setting even further. XP lets you unlock skills which vary from new types of hacks to increased damage with shotguns, plus the ability to take down the heavily armoured enforcers, a really important skill. Which is a shame though. I do wish the game just had much more varied amounts of content. The city is really well designed. It feels somewhat alive. I won't say that it feels really complex with heaps of simulations going on, but it does give the illusion of life as long as you don't look too deep. I found this small group of NPCs waving signs around. It was a cool touch, and there's plenty of that around the joint, but none of it feels overly lively. More like vertical slices of life in a city almost devoid of anything else. It's a strange thing to have in a game where simply mousing over an NPC gives you personality traits that the NPCs don't manifest visually or audibly. It is strange. It's undercooked, unbaked, and mostly frustrating from a point of view when you think about what could have been this game's sandbox. And this will be explored more in the next two games, and they both do it somewhat differently. But for now, that's for later in the next two videos in the series. For now though, the city is fun to explore with a lot of random shit to do and see. Most of the CTOS towers around the joint have a lot of verticality which really show the city in its best light. And for what it's worth, the city is quite small, but the density of content is pretty impressive. And even if some of that content is lackluster or not really to my taste personally, it's nice to have it, and it's nice that the sheer amount of it is available easily. And just quickly before we return back to the narrative, I do just want to talk about the whole hacker aesthetic of the game, just real brief here. Well, I really, really hate it. Like, I don't like it at all. I hate that somehow Aidan is able to control the traffic lights through his phone or blow up a steam pipe with his phone. I get that it's a game, and don't get me wrong, the game would not have worked if you had to plug in a laptop to a hard connection and type out some code. But it would have been nice if the game at least wrote this in somehow. Maybe explain that Aidan's phone is special, or that he discovered a way to integrate CTO functions into an app. It just doesn't go anywhere, and it's just kind of annoying to me, because I like those little technical tidbits some games have, and Watch Dogs just does not have that. Oh, and furthermore, the constant use of visual glitches, distorted audio, and otherwise computery environments is just very uninspired. I actually would have preferred that when we're hacking, we kind of viewed his phone from the first person, and maybe you could peek around and see if someone was spotting you. Kind of like what Alien Isolation does with its save system. I think that could have been cool, and it would have much further grounded the game in realism, which is what the game is trying to do. It's obviously a GTA competitor, but they forgot what made GTA 4 and 5 so good. Likeable characters, realistic worlds, quote unquote, and a sense of humour that is appreciated for the tone of each mission. Oh, and an open world that is actually engaging to explore, not a hodgepodge of random building models and some pop-up events. But alas, Watch Dogs is a game that does not take risks. Its only risk was being a new IP by Ubisoft. And I think it went well considering this is the first of a trilogy of games. But we still have a narrative to discuss, a character to dissect, and a world to investigate. And several tangents to go down. Aidan gets a call from Bad Boy 17 saying that they need to meet, so we do. Aidan walks up to a random guy in the metro and starts calling him a bad boy.
What? Bad boy, 17. What the fuck, man?
The guy reacts as anyone really else would in the situation, surprised and weirded out. It does make Aidan sound somewhat like a pedophile, which is pretty funny, as Bad Boy 17 is not a bad boy, but a bad girl mid to late 20s. Her name is Clara and she's a member of DedSec who is about to give us a serious upgrade. But first, a character moment.
17.
Do I look like a bad boy?
No, you look like a wild card.
I hope I don't frighten you.
What, do you have a reason to frighten me?
Now you're being paranoid.
Am I? Someone is fucking with my life. Threatening my family, and at the same moment, the mysterious bad boy wants to meet me, and he is a she. He is a lie. Listen, I need to trust you, Clara.
I wouldn't trust
Aidan is trying to basically be threatening to throw Clara off. He walks towards her, pushes her around, basically physically assaulting her because she lied about how bad of a boy her 17-year-old self was. But the important part here is that she was able to track the mysterious caller and she got us DedSec system hacks. Essentially a second tier of upgrades and unlocks. This doesn't mean we're part of DedSec though, because Clara is giving us access without asking.
Yeah. Well, you're not the first woman to promise me that.
They do all their nasty work through this. And they don't know I have access.
Well, you stole it.
This is powerful. Just don't be stupid. You screw around and you get people hurt. Worst.
Well, I don't think you trust me.
Give me a reason to trust you.
Alright. The guy sent the text. How do we find him?
We work together.
We team up to find this guy, and now we're into gameplay. A nice little stealth combat sequence, but not before I do some upgrading. To track the caller, we need to go visit a CTOS office tower as the caller bounced his call through their network. Clara and Aidan have a bonding moment.
I'll start there. Hey, I'm sorry I was rough before.
I know what you were doing, trying to intimidate me. Very textbook. Stepping into my personal space, the stare, physical contact. You're trying to look for cracks. So did you find any?
Wouldn't you love to know?
It's stealth time. I prefer a more violent, but still stealthy approach. This silent pistol does wonders with headshots, plus it just feels good to move through them this quickly without being noticed. We go through the door and now we're in a plaza of sorts. We have to find a guard with a code on him so we hack into the network. We allow Clara to find where the caller was calling from, which by the way was the crank caller's boss, if you had forgotten that. Our new upgrades allow us to hack into a guard's equipment, distracting them temporarily. This basically disables the AI for a few seconds so you can run in front of them and they don't seem to care. But once again, I'm stealthy, but brute forcing my way through. The takedown animations look pretty good, don't they? I get spotted, so I had to pull out the big guns, but this doesn't matter because no reinforcements get sent or anything like that. We hack into the mainframe using one of those puzzles again, which in case I haven't mentioned it, are really simple and rarely so complex enough to warrant a second attempt. Hold X on the laptop, hack it, and ready to get out now. But there's a small army of police outside. I'll just, take the front door because the cops didn't bother with like locking down the outside, I guess. We escape a police scan and we're out. Clara tells us that the caller is from the Loop, a district of the city. Clara also warns us that she thinks the caller wanted us to find them. So let's go find out who is this mysterious crank caller's boss. We start off the next mission by having to hack into this CTOS access box by hacking 2 smaller boxes. A bip and a boop, and we're into more hacking. God. We do that, and then we have a camera feed from her apartment. It's obviously a trap, but Aidan's pretty chill about the whole thing. The mysterious caller actually turns out to be our favourite random guy from the intro, Damien Branks. Aidan's old mentor and business partner. He tells us to come find us. Aidan questions why Damien has showed up now and why harass his sister of all people. But we don't have time to answer these questions because a squad of Chicago's underground assassins, the Fixers, just showed up and we need to leave. But not after killing them all, of course. It's quicker and easier than escaping, fun fact. Plus, I just got this new grenade launcher that I want to try. It's a great piece of kit, great for getting those groups kills by exploiting the hottest invention of the last 200 years, the automobile. The waypoint is put on the map and it's time to get over, but there's no cars around, no empty ones anyway, and I can't spawn one in the middle of the mission, so I just kinda have to run for it. Until I do eventually get a car, and I cover that last little bit. Time to meet Damien.
Clever boy. Drinks on me.
Damien is drunk. He tells us that we never loosen up. Basically, why so serious? Damien wants his partner back, but Aidan's got other shit to do. Damien basically says that whoever the other hacker at the Malot was, that's who put the hit onto us. And now Damien is a cripple because of it. Aidan is pretty sure that the Malot was your fuck up. Aidan tries to make sense of Damien's motives by reminding him that a 6-year-old girl, Aidan's niece, died because Damien went too far.
6-year-old girl. My niece died because you went too far.
Oh, you're adorable. Blaming your family problems on me? Damien crossed the line, he made the Batman angry. What about me?
And I think I might actually be on Aidan's side here. Damien is kind of a dick, comparing a crippled leg to a dead child. And yeah, they're both kind of dicks to each other, but I do get where Aidan's coming from. Damien was greedy, stupid, and egotistical, and a young girl died because of it. But, at the same time, it's not like Damien got out easy. If he really did lose everything like he says, then maybe he did suffer too. But maybe he also just means his leg, and in that case, kinda shit comparing a death to a crippled leg. After the discussion, Aidan monologues about their past. Damien was a hacker, but Aidan knew how to get into people's heads. Sometimes the system was less vulnerable than the person themselves. They made a strong team, but after Lena, they were done. Aidan didn't even bother thinking about him. But we need to know what he knew about them a lot, as it could lead to the other hacker and maybe to whoever is responsible, and maybe it could help Aidan get revenge. But not before we detour to a graveyard on the edge of the city to a mission simply titled Remember. It's a flashback of Aidan and his sister at Lena's grave. A mysterious bunch of flowers keeps being left and neither of them know who.
Do you know who keeps leaving the flowers?
No. But that girl has a lot of friends.
Had.
Lena has a lot of friends, says Aidan. But like his sister says, this is about letting go. She had a lot of friends.
I know.
Nikki is pretty much tuned into the fact that Aidan is not letting go. He's digging deeper. He's trying to find those responsible and punish them. And like he says again, if he does that, Jackson and her are put in danger again. She doesn't blame him, but I think she knows that his actions are ultimately what killed her. Unknowingly, sure, but it still happened. And like any other sane person would, she doesn't want it to happen again. This moment reveals the most about Aidan's character in this game, though. It's literally the driving force.
I need to know.
There it is. It's a self-redemption story for Aidan, a tale of revenge. He promised he would stop, but he obviously didn't. Because yeah, how could he just walk away from this? He's close to the source of the hit, but could it put his family in danger again? And well, we may never know, because Aidan Pierce is so fucking obsessed with just getting distracted from the big picture. Like, look, we have a call from Geordie, and look, we're doing a mission totally unrelated to the murder plot. Because in-universe, this mission takes multiple days to do. Meanwhile, the person that called the hit is probably relaxing on a beach somewhere, or maybe they just went on holiday to a different city. Anything is possible, yet we are doing this. You're friends with a hacker and a hitman. Surely they can cover you for a bit. I guess they're not going to cover us though, because we have a survivor from the stadium back at the start of the game, and he's going to ID us, and we're fucked if that happens. So Geordie hatches a plan, and we go to execute said plan, in a mission titled, Not the Pizza Guy. Geordie forcibly uses a young family's deck to shoot at gang members. The idea is that the fixer boss is down there, and we can force him to reveal the location of the survivor from the stadium. So let's get down there. We kill some guys, get to the boss, who tells us that the prisoner is due to be transferred out of prison so he can be tortured to reveal the name of the vigilante. It's time for a criminal convoy mission, but it's a story mission, basically. I even execute it the same way. I use my brand new sniper rifle to take down everyone in the convoy before I even know I'm there. I don't know why I hated this game so much. I mean, look at it, this is great. I'm shooting guys. And then I remember this game's about revenge. And like, avenging a 6-year-old girl who died or whatever, and I'm killing professional hitman so that a prisoner won't tell him what I look like. But surely I could just get Geordie to do this, or I could hack into something to prevent it, or something. Like, why am I doing this? Well, me and Aidan are going to have to do more than this, though. We now have to get into the prison and tell the speaker not to speak up. Joy! It's detour time, because we're going to prison some fucking reason. In a weirdly intense cutscene, Aidan turns himself in for some crime. I think the crime was just having a gun in America. It's never explained, but it really doesn't matter. What matters is that Aidan changes his name in the register to be John Smith, and Aidan was able to have his phone snuck in. So we aren't completely harmless. Using our phone to escape the cell, we hijack the cameras that the guards wear so that we can get a view of the controls for our cell door. We unlock it, and now we're in a stealth section. Stick to cover, watch the angles, and get out of there. Pretty simple. Aidan even makes a remark that thanks to CTOS, prison breaks are actually easier than before. You don't need muscles or explosives, just a phone and a map. Well, that is true, until we hit the basement where the guy's being held and we instantly get detected and have to fight our way through them. And by this point, I had neglected shotguns. But, they're pretty OP. You can just shoot them in the face and they fucking die. The combat just feels good. Animations and the general feel of moving cover to cover is just smooth. Plus, because I'm playing with a controller, aim assist makes me feel very powerful because I never miss. Which is good, because a big fuck just came down. A bullet sponge, basically. But you do get an ability later to do an instant takedown on them, but I don't have that yet. The survivor is pretty fucking nervous about meeting us again. I mean, fair enough. We threatened him with murder and then his family, and then by extending his sentence by a few extra years. 60 days to 60 years is a little extreme, Aidan. He probably was never going to talk up anyway, but Jesus, it worked fairly well. And now it's time to escape. Geordie sends in a bag of gear to the elevator. So why couldn't Geordie just do this for us? Why are we sidetracking again and again? And like, cool, we're on the roof of the prison now, that's awesome, but I'm gonna complain about some stuff. Remember that reputation system from earlier? You know, how you couldn't kill civilians or else you would take a hit? Well, as I discovered here, you can't kill cops either. The ones downstairs aren't counted as normal cops by the game as far as I can tell. The reason this is annoying is because you have to get off this roof while they shoot at you, and you die quick. So, it's pretty easy to be out of cover for a few seconds, take a few hits, and you're dead. So it's annoying that I can't kill cops without taking a rep hit. I do it anyway, but but still, it's annoying. You know, so I gotta say, the way we get out of this police station is pretty cool. We get in the car, we use a ramp, and we literally land on the train line. The car's stuck though, but look, there's a train. We can use that to escape from the cops. Which doesn't work, because as soon as we get close to escaping, the circle just moves, and we have to travel further. I get off the train, get in the car, hide in an alley, mission over. Literally in and out of the prison in less than 10 minutes. So this is the mission that so far in the game has the most potential to be a good mission. So why not have it be longer and have Aidan like slowly build up a plan to get access to the guy? But, you know, I think the writers realized that, yeah, oh wait, that's right. We have to get revenge on our niche still. That's still there, because like, fuck's sakes, we're about 20% through the game, and the plot is already taking a back street? Like, fucking hell. Oh, and then Damien Pranks, the dickhead, calls us. It's time to meet again. Welcome to Act 2 of 5. I know, and the video is this long? I would stick around though, because the plot gets boring and it just goes somewhere else for a bit, then it just comes back with a disconnected finale. And that means I won't be covering all of it in the same detail seen in the video so far. And also, at this point in the game, I also still have no idea what CTOS is, fun fact. The game actually, no joke, never explicitly states what it is. But in other news, I figured out, well, I think I've started to figure out why I could, you know, never beat the game again. It's Aidan Pierce. He's such a weird character. His niece dies in an accident that is his fault, and on his mission for revenge against himself, he steals millions of dollars from random people's bank accounts, kills thousands against the city, endangers his nephew and sister, exposes the corruption within CTOS and Bloom, and injures God knows how many people along the way. That's why I can't play this game again. It's a game that hinges so much on Aidan being likable, but the game and the writing don't allow him that. Because he has to be bitter and angry, he can't be likable. He's mysterious for the sake of being mysterious. And maybe that's why a 13-year-old me liked this game. You played as the underdog, a rough man wanting revenge. But no, you play as a man who has enough weapons to make the US military blush. How is he the underdog when no one is out to get him? His niece was killed, so he would stop. The niece wasn't even meant to die. It was meant to scare him, but Aidan strongly believes that it was to kill him, not to scare him. So why does he go on a bloodbath to find out who's responsible? Like, he's responsible. If he wanted to find out who was actually responsible, he just has to kill himself. Unless that's what this game is actually all about. Maybe he wants to die, but he can't do it himself, so he has to endanger himself, but also he doesn't want someone else to kill him because that would make him weak or something. Because maybe it's a paradox. I really don't know. He seems like a gruff, tough asshole for the sake of being all of that so he could be cool. Oddly enough, from the last Suffering Fruit, it's the same issue as Mitchell in Hunt Down the Freeman. Like, it's the same issue. We don't know who the character is. Like, sure, at least Aidan monologues every now and then, but all he does is just recount the plot to us. It's a pointless monologue. It's not a monologue even. It's basically the narrator of a fucking movie telling you, you see, the plot that just happened, we're going to repeat it again so you understand it because the writing is terrible. Like, fuck's sakes. So will this next mission alleviate any of my feelings towards the game? No, it won't, because guess what? Damien decides that maybe the only way we will work with him is if he kidnaps our entire family. No, I'm not kidding. The logical leap that Damien takes here is so bizarre. We have no problem assaulting a private military. Why would a cripple stop us? Plus, sure, I'll help you so I can rescue them later, but I'll just shoot you in the back of the fucking head later. It's barely a fucking solution to Damien's problem. Plus, he only has Nicole because for some reason, he's just waiting there for us to show up after he ditched the previous meeting location. Like, he doesn't even have a Jackson. The one which Aidan actually seems to care about, because Jackson is just on a train, surrounded by fixers, which I kill and rescue him, hand him over to his therapist so she can look after him after the fucking mute fuck for the next couple days while I go rescue his mum. Because Aidan Pierce is such a hero. Ooh. Fuck me. This is literally just the writer of the game adding on an extra 4 hours. This is just to make the game longer. Because this is where the sidetracking comes in, and there's so fucking much of it. Would you believe me if I told you, in the next couple hours of gameplay, we track down a homeless man to get a remote that turns a bridge to a high-tech bunker, we assault an armoured homeless camp, we fight not one, but 2 different hackers, we expose a sex trafficking ring, and then we get home for supper. Yeah, exactly. The second half of this game is so fucking weighted down by useless additions that only confuse the player. Like, this could have been a half-decent 6-hour game, but they made it into a confusing jaunt for a madman's mind, which lasts for like 10 or so hours, and that's before side content, of which there is so much, and of which I will not be talking about. The main problem is that Act 1, by the end of it, is essentially 1 or 2 missions away from finding the person that plays the hit on us, right? But we can't have that, so the entirety of Act 2 and most of Act 3 and 4 is just random, useless, bloated additions. But let's just cover it in general. Let's cover in general some of those additions and their almost non-existent connections to Aidan and the plot. Right, let's go. I do want to point out, before I continue, that I am heavily summarizing these plot points. Why? Because they're basically side stories for a completely different character. We still play as Aidan, right? But it's almost like the original plot didn't happen. Like, we forgot about the main plot and we just go down a side street for a couple hours. Firstly, Nicole, Aidan's sister, gets kidnapped by Damien and some fixers. Why? So he can make us get a hard drive full of stuff from the Malott job, which reveals the second hacker, Delford Wade. We learn that Iraq has a massive server full of info on nearly everyone in the city. This makes him basically immune to attacks. Okay, I guess blackmail does have power when you have it on everyone, so we use and abuse his underling, Bedbug, who is vying for power within the Viceroys. He gets us access to the server through a strange escort mission. But this time we use cameras to direct him. It's not terrible, but like, it's not great either. Like, it's a good idea, I guess, though. Like, I just hope it never comes up again. We also, for this detour, stop a human trafficking ring as well, because the game has to be gritty and real. Well, you free one girl who would then you would disguise as her abuser. So it's a rude one, but it's worth noting that all the girls get free, not by you, but by the police who Aidan calls after he just killed people. Oh, and the girls have tracking devices under their neck skin. So, and I doubt the cops are going to find them, so these girls are just destined to go back into the sex trade again. What's the point? How does this mix with the main story? The link is at Iraq. It will only be accessible to us at the auction. So we need access to the auction, but our invite to the auction is with the sex traffic girl from earlier because we stole a sex pest's identity. See? Now I remember. Which I actually don't, because I had to read a wiki to get that. Which again, the Watch Dogs narrative makes no sense. It's just a confusing mess of ideas. Aidan taking down a bunch of bad people and business models. But there is some good shootouts in this detour, and by this point, I was pretty much rocking the biggest guns you could get because I robbed so many poor people in the streets. So, like, good job, Aidan, you literal criminal. The second detour is that some of the data we need is encrypted and cannot be hacked by Aidan or Clara. So we need to find Raymond T-Bone Kennedy. And while we accidentally caused CTOS to gain popularity because he caused a blackout, and that blackout helped CTOS get support, and then its first implementation worldwide, and so on and so forth. We find him, get drunk in a mini game that is a weird way to showcase drinking. A really weird way to showcase drinking. and then we get our asses handed to him. Handed to us by him. Ugh. He kidnaps us, and now we're working together, but he needs some hardware and time to learn how TTOS works nowadays. He writes a virus that deletes any mention of him on the TTOS servers, somehow, and then we waltz into Bloom HQ, delete any trace of him, but wait a second, there was actually too many guards. So we had to make a diversion by killing some Bloom delivery drivers who were just working a 9 to 5 like everyone else. But my niece is dead, said Aidan. I can kill anyone I want. My niece is dead. And then we find out that Damien had made a deal for unlimited access to TTOS, provided that he can catch T-Bone. Again, alright, fair enough. Unlimited access to bank accounts does sound good. Which leads us to us storming the Viceroy base, getting all the data we need, not just 25% of it this time. We kill literally thousands of gang members, and Aidan feels nothing. The third detour is... oh my fucking god. We get another hacker to kill, JB Default Markowitz. He hacks into our secure server in the bunker which we now have, the Hazardon Island, deletes the data we just got, then drops a bombshell which I think I mentioned an hour ago, I don't remember, but I don't know, is that Clara was the one who located Pierce and Damien so that the hint on them could happen, meaning that Clara is the reason why Aidan's niece died. Aidan gets angry, that happens, and then Damien then gets angry that we haven't made any progress, and he's still holding our sister by the way, and then he leaks our identity to the police and the public. We, over the course of a couple missions, learn more about Default and some of the annoying gameplay mechanics he brings to the table, like visual errors all the time, constant flickering, pop-ups, turning your hacks on and off. It's fucking terrible. I get what they wanted to do, but please stop. These are literally the worst parts of the entire game. And it's a pity because they come off of the back of the Viceroy stuff, which, minus the last boss fight and his constant talking, was textbook alright. And this whole chapter with Default is so bland that I'm, no joke, just going to skip it. But then again, I do need to do the game justice. Even if that means I have to do another couple paragraphs about Default and his dumb fucking gimmicks. Nah, fuck that. We track down Default and get the data back. And guess what? We're back. We're back to the revenge plot, finally. The events we just talked about take place over like 5 or something hours, and none of it relates. Like, pretty much none of it relates until the very end. It is just boring, sidewinding shit that makes no sense to the plot and is not needed. It is just bloat. It exists so the game can run for 10 or so hours. And would you believe me if I said that next to no character development happened for Aidan or anyone else involved? So the same stuff I said about Aidan at like the start of the video still applies. And will apply for the rest of the video. He doesn't change. He's just vengeful and cruel to everyone. Stealing money from normal people. Murdering normal people who just happen to be part of the gang. But whatever. Aidan's shit. He doesn't understand, the effects of being poor and being in a low economic area. Whatever. We know that now, and it is the game's biggest flaw. That and the confusing narrative that takes 10 hours to do what it could do in 5, or 4 if you cut out some weird missions that make a lot of sense, like the introductions to crime fighting or criminal convoys. Whew. The game is just kinda average. So average it hurts. It doesn't do anything markedly different or better than other games. I like the combat, but that's only because it's simple and snappy. It's simple, so they can't really fuck it up. That's why it's good. Sure, the hacking is a neat gimmick, but it's never anything past the gimmick. It's effectively just wireless button pushing. It's that and traps on enemies? It's cool, sure, but it's too restrictive, and it's often just insuperior to getting out of my car and using a grenade launcher on a fixer, as opposed to like using stoplights to kill them or something. Like, maybe if gunplay was a little harder and its resources ammo more scarce, you could be forced towards playing it more stealthy and hacky more to even the odds. Aidan Pierce should be a highly mobile, stealthy guy, but the inclusion of a grenade launcher as a plausible primary weapon makes Aidan a glass cannon build, and that's fine. but it makes Watch Dogs this weird cautionary tale of basically just how to avoid mixing a good idea with shitty execution. But honestly, let's just switch gears for the final couple of missions. Let's just finish this shit. Because I'm so sick of this game. Playing it was one thing, but talking about it for an hour plus and writing thousands of words about it really, really drains a man of his enthusiasm for the game. Not that there was much of it left or even there at the start, but still. We discover where our sister's being held, we get our sister back. Aidan drives Nikki and Jack out of the city and into hiding until we can resolve the matter at hand. We have a pretty big bounty with the fixtures now. Even Geordie says it's higher than anything's ever seen. So it's pretty much time to finish this. There's no plot threads really left to tie up apart from, ooh, who hired the fixers to kill our niece? Which, at this point, is actually made blatantly clear multiple times, but Aidan doesn't realize it. Well, T-Bone finds out who ordered the hit, and it was none other than Lucky Quinn, the owner of the Merlot Hotel. Because, wow, wasn't that fucking obvious? It would have been, like, well, it would have been if the game ever actually told us that Lucky Quinn owns the Merlot. The game never tells us this. But it should have been really obvious that's what it was. Because even though the game doesn't tell us this, Lucky Quinn looks like a sexual predator, right? He looks like the kind of guy that would kill someone's niece because he could. So it's time to kill him in the longest mission yet, aptly named No Turning Back. Because you can't turn back, and you probably wouldn't want to, because that would mean you have to go through Act 2 and its 17 different plot threads. It would be painful, to say the least. But hey, we're here, might as well start the mission off. And suitably, it takes place where it all begun, the Merlot. It's a pretty simple mission, to be honest, not all that different from the ones we've done already. Go in, hack a little, watch some people do stuff on cameras, hack some more, shoot, and shoot. Elevator, shoot some more, listen to the antagonist talk about stuff, maybe he reveals a little bit about who that woman is we keep seeing in the corrupted video. Well, what do you know? The mayor of the city committed manslaughter and Quinn helped him cover it up in exchange for being a chess pawn for Quinn's gang in the club. Fair enough. And we actually don't even get to shoot Quinn, by the way. We actually exploit modern medicine. We turn off his pacemaker or make it overvolt his heart or something. Why his pacemaker is Wi-Fi enabled is beyond me, but it does kill him. So, yay, good job, Aidan. You got revenge on him. Yay! Aidan then, monologues about how he actually feels better. It's not like all the movies where revenge makes him feel hollow. It makes Aidan feel good. I'm glad the writers stuck that bit in, because that makes my job a bit easier. Like, a lot easier. I don't have to talk about Aidan and how it wouldn't have helped him, because, hey, the writers think it helped him, even though it gets completely turned around by what he does later, but that's fine. Police are called, chase time, we use some CTOS blackouts, which, by the way, I haven't covered yet, but it just turns the power off, like in the intro stadium mission. And the enemies can't see you when it happens, so you can just run away. Yeah. We then learn that Clara is in trouble. Damien alerted the club on where she is, and now she's in danger. Yay! Remember those flowers that were on our niece's grave? Yeah, that's Clara putting them there, by the way. She gets shot a couple times. She dies. But Aidan, being the gentleman he is, just hacks her phone and gets a voice memo she left for him. I love that he just does this without any clue of that being what he should do. It's so fucking weird. It's like if, I don't know, some guy you barely know, maybe you know him through work, dies, but he has a heart attack at, your Starbucks, so you just take his phone and you start reading his texts. It's like that. Sure, by coincidence, there was a voice memo for Aidan, but it's not like Clara went, yo, when I die, you should hack my phone. It's just, it's so fucking strange. The memo is just basically saying that she thought that she could get closure by helping Aidan get closure. It would make her feel better about how she fucked over a small family by killing their niece. And I would wager that didn't work out so well because she's now dead in a graveyard. But wait a minute, we have to drop this idea and change gears to Damien. He now has full control to CTOS for some reason, despite the fact that he never handed over T-Bone. So the game's just retconned itself. Yeah. This means that he can do the same stuff Default was doing, but worse, which implies that Default had a similar amount of power. Again, a retcon. Okay then. But here's the most annoying part of this. You have to drive around to 3 control points, upload a virus that knocks a satellite out of orbit or something, and that's fine. But the whole time you're being chased by cops in cars, and they're also in elevators. Plus every time he activates a bad hack, it makes a really obnoxious noise.
He's trying to slow me down. Focus on one location.
And it does it like every couple seconds. Plus, because the designers couldn't think of a more obnoxious thing, your mini-map is inaccurate. He's added other mission markers that obscure where the hack points actually are. So that's fun. You can just mouse over them though, and if they say hack, that means that's where you're meant to go. Anything else is bad basically. But, I don't know. This part's just boring. We spend probably 10-15 minutes just driving around. But I just turned down the volume. I literally muted my volume on this part of the game because it sounded that fucking obnoxious. But yeah, we upload a virus into space so that it can do something to a satellite so that we can execute T-Bone's blackout code that last time he did it killed like 20 people. But sure, let's do that because sure, why not? Is the logic that Damien might kill people by trying to kill us? Well, if Aidan just leaves the city, he can't do anything. CTOS is only in Chicago. If Aidan just goes past the city border, Damien can't do anything. Damien's only trying to hurt Aidan. Aidan, you could just leave. There's no need to make a blackout and possibly kill people. You could just leave. But yeah, we make the whole city lose power so that dipshit can't get into the network. And for some reason it also lets us find him. I don't know why causing a blackout gives us a GPS marker, but sure, why not? An important note here is that no idea if it actually matters for the sequels, but DedSec contacts us and tells us that they need 30 seconds to install a backdoor into CTOS. But Aidan says no, I am sick of the noise, and tells them to fuck off. DedSec will remember this apparently. Telltale and Ubisoft would actually be an interesting collab actually. But anyway, we get on a boat and we find Damien, who's at a lighthouse off the coast, and it's time to finish this. Damien corners us, says a bunch of shit I don't remember, you know, something. I'm actually the good guy, you're the bad guy, I don't know. And then Geordie shows up, but this time he's on the fixer's side, he's here for both of us. But Aidan has computer powers.
Oh, you're hilarious. You know, you guys take things far too personally, that's your problem. That's why this went wrong. There's lessons to be learned here, fellas. Up, phone 2. Give it to me. Come on, hand it over.
He blows up the lighthouse light, which for some reason is CTOS connected, but it does buy us enough time to send Geordie shooting off the side and deliver a quick bit of lead to Damien. And so we're free, credits roll when we get a sequel set up, but not before we have a final decision to make. And this final decision doesn't make much sense at all. Do we kill Maurice, the guy who shot Lena, or do we let him walk? What would Aidan do? I think he would forgive him. I think, at least somewhat. So I walk off, I leave Maurice in the garage, where he's gonna die from hunger. It's a bit of a weird one. Yeah, but that's Watch Dogs. The fact that everything you do in the game is pretty much null and void by the end is kind of funny. The fact that despite Audi and CTOS in the news as a data collection scam, they expand across the the world is annoying. But I don't know. What do I even think about this game? I really don't know. Even after gathering 11 hours of footage, and that's not including stuff I didn't record, I don't know if I liked this game. I would say that I did, but not strongly. It's like a 5, right? And that's average. But I can't help but feel that it should have been better. I mean, the premise is so good. A man gets revenge, and he's a hacker who's skilled in combat. It sounds like a cool anime, right? But it doesn't do anything. The hacking can be avoided in anything but story missions. It's not essential to the experience for the most part, which sucks. Because it could have been a really interesting way to interact with the world. Imagine if Aidan had less weapons and ammo. It was more about stealth, distraction, and tactics. Hacking was to gain an advantage, not to get a cheap instant kill on an enemy. It's honestly just often faster to shoot someone than to interact with the hacking. We even have like a slow-mo bullet time which lets us get headshots. So why hack? I liked the plot until Act 2, and then I didn't like it. But it picked up again when we confronted Lucky Quinn. It's at its best when it's about how broken Aidan Pierce as a person is. It's at its best when it tells us more about how he's not healthy, how he's toxic, how he's a murderer. And I wish they leaned into that more. But alas, he won't be showing up for a while again. He won't be showing up to Watch Dogs Legion's DLC as far as I know. And from what I've been told, that's a character study of him. So I'm very interested in that. I don't hate his character, but it's not handled well. And I know I probably shouldn't really expect this from Ubisoft though. Ubisoft was at the beginning of the end here, right? In my mind, the last Ubisoft game I actually enjoyed was Assassin's Creed Origins. And that's because I wasn't busy every day, so I could sink in 200 hours of gameplay and not feel fatigued by it. But next time when we return to this format, it will be for Watch Dogs 2. And as far as I can remember, I really liked that game. I liked it more than this one, that's for sure. But that's in a couple months, if not next year. So don't hold out hope that I'll be dropping it anytime soon. But thanks for watching, everyone. If you made it this far and enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a like or a comment, or hell, even a subscription from me, because that would be pretty cool. That's all for me for now. Catch you next time, I guess. Stay safe.